I ran back outside, my heart hammering in my chest, and surveyed the area. My eyes searched wildly for her. She wasn't there. How did she slip away from right under my nose? This did not make any sense. I felt something at the back of my head, and a voice from behind growled, "Don't move." That was the last thing I heard before I was knocked unconscious. Crazy, isn't it? Minding my own business and wham! Continue to watch my story and you'll see how I ended up in that predicament. It all started a few months ago. I'm not a very good-looking guy, or at least that's what I thought. When I met Samara, I was actually kind of, well, shy. She made the first move and asked me out on a date. At first, I thought it was a trick, or even that she had lost a bet, or it was a dare. But then I realized she was really into me. I didn't waste time in asking her to be my steady girlfriend either. I knew I couldn't get better than her. At a very young age, Samara's parents passed away and she came to live with her Uncle Henry, who was a scientist. That was supposed to be a temporary situation, but Samara didn't have much family, so she made Uncle Henry's home her own. Samara and I were total opposites. Where I was shy, she was outgoing and the most popular girl in school. All the jocks at school lingered on her every word because of her beauty, and the nerds lingered on her every word because of her intelligence. Even though I knew I was dating out of my league, Samara only had eyes for me, which made me feel special. On the eve of my 16th birthday, Samara called me.
Hey Anton, sorry for calling so late, but what are your plans for your birthday tomorrow? I was thinking maybe we could do something together?
It's okay, I was just heading to bed. Well, my parents and I usually have dinner as a family, but I guess we can do something tomorrow night and I can get together on Saturday evening.
Okay, great. You can pick me up at 6:30 and I'll treat you to dinner.
Sounds good. Samara and I chatted for a few minutes before we hung up. Next evening, I picked Samara up at 6:30 and, as always, with a bouquet of flowers. She placed it in a vase before we headed to the car. I was a bit eager for our date tonight as I didn't know what to expect. How's Uncle Henry? She looked a bit uneasy, then shrugged it off.
Always working on the next new thing. He sent you birthday greetings, though,
she said as I opened the door for her to get in. And what about his niece? Did she send any birthday greetings? I smiled mischievously and wiggled my eyebrows.
Well,
She pulled me close.
I heard from a very reliable source that the niece has something very special planned. But that can only happen if the boyfriend gets behind the wheel. We don't want to miss our reservations.
She giggled before she pushed me away playfully. I laughed and jogged around the car. I opened the car door and jumped in. Samara gave me the name of the restaurant, Jennifer's. When we got to the restaurant, Samara and the staff made a big hullabaloo about my birthday. The cake with the singing, there was even a live band who came to our table and played a song for me. Of course, when the birthday kiss was shared, the entire restaurant cheered. My face was red with all the attention. After dessert, Samara pulled out a box from her purse.
And last but not least, this is for you.
Her eyes sparkled lovingly. I took the gift-wrapped box from Samara and opened it. Inside was a gold wristband with my name engraved. I can't accept this. This is way too expensive. I pushed the wristband back into her hand.
Anton, I want you to have it. You are the best boyfriend I have ever had. You've always been there for me, and I just wanted to show you a little appreciation.
She took the wristband from the box and placed it on my wrist.
I want you to have it. Please don't tell me that working extra shifts at Lola's with Patrick breathing down my neck was all for nothing.
Samara shuddered. Thank you. I was still hesitant, but I didn't want Samara to feel bad. I've just never received anything like this before. After a few minutes, we called for the bill and we left. I dropped Samara home and thanked her for the night. I kissed her goodnight and watched as she walked to the front door. I drove off when she was safe inside. I looked back at the wristband inside. If I knew then what I know now, I would have never accepted the 16th birthday gift. That gift changed my life forever. Over the next 2 weeks, I hid the wristband from my parents because I knew they would tell me to give it back. However, I always wore it when I went out with Samara. Hey, I walked up behind Samara one afternoon outside the library. She spun around, eyes wide.
Hey.
She forced a smile. I held her hand and looked at her concerned. Are you okay?
I'm fine. Are you ready?
I nodded and we left for the mall. While walking through the mall, I noticed Samara got startled from sounds and looked over her shoulder numerous times. This behavior went on not just at the mall, but for a few days after, and each time she said she was fine. I wanted her to open up to me, but I also needed to give her time to do it at her own pace. One evening, Samara showed up at my front door. My parents were out at the time.
Hey, can you drop me off at Aunt Uncle Henry can't take me. I know it's last minute.
She wrung her hands as she spoke. Sure, no problem. Let me just grab my keys and my jacket. In the car, Samara gave me directions to Aunt Tia's, who was about 2 hours away. We've been dating for 6 months and Samara never mentioned Aunt Tia to me. She looked out the window while I focused on driving. After about 15 minutes, I broke the silence. Samara, are you okay? I glanced over at her before I refocused on the road. She looked at me, her eyes filled with fear.
There's something I need to tell you.
She closed her eyes and inhaled deeply. Her voice shook as she spoke.
Uncle Henry is after me.
I shot her a confused look. After you?
Yes, I took something from him, and he wants it back.
So why don't you just give it back?
It's not that simple. I also don't have an Aunt Tia.
What? So where are we going? I tilted my head as I looked across at Samara.
I'm not sure. I need to figure out a way out of this.
She shot me an apologetic look. Samara, you're not making any sense. At this point, I was a bit annoyed. Why did she lie to me?
I hid the chip in your wristband, and I think my uncle knows you have it, so he's after both of us.
I pulled the car over to the side of the road. I took the wristband off and handed it to Samara.
There's a lot at stake if he has what is on that chip.
Samara took the wristband and shoved it into her purse. So then why not go to the police?
Because I don't want anyone to get hurt.
But you hid the chip in the wristband you gave to me, I yelled in disbelief.
Look, Anton, I'm sorry. I panicked. If you can get me to Pointe-à-Pierre, I'll be able to take it from there.
There was an intense silence in the car. I was about to say something when I decided against it. I started the car and continued to Pointe-à-Pierre. After about 30 minutes, I said dryly, I have to get gas. She nodded as I pulled into the gas station.
I'll go in and pay for gas and get a bottle of water. Do you want anything?
I shook my head. She hopped out of the car and disappeared into the store. I slammed my hands on the wheel frustratedly. I can't believe she got me wrapped up in all this. 15 minutes went by and Samara did not exit the store. Where is she? She should have been back by now. My eyes caught something in my rearview mirror. Was that a person? Were we followed? I sighed in relief when a cat came into view in my rearview mirror. I needed to get Samara. She was in there too long. I jumped out of the car and ran into the gas station. I looked around and Samara was nowhere to be found. After describing Samara to the cashier, I asked if he saw her. He said no. I ran back outside, my heart hammering in my chest, and surveyed the area. My eyes searched wildly for her. She wasn't here. How did she slip away from right under my nose? This did not make any sense. I felt something at the back of my head, and a voice from behind me growled, "Don't move." That was the last thing I heard before I was knocked unconscious. I woke up feeling as though someone in my head was kicking and screaming to get out. I blinked a few times as I looked around, trying to figure out where I was.
Thank you for joining us, Anton.
Uncle Henry drawled. Where am I? Why am I tied up? I struggled violently against my ropes. There were 3 other men in the room.
You are safe, for now. I'll let you go if you tell me the location of my niece and my chip.
Your guess is as good as mine. She bailed on me at the gas station, and she also has the chip. I glared at Uncle Henry. Uncle Henry walked up to me briskly, grabbed a handful of my hair, and yanked my head back.
I don't believe you heard me. Where is my niece and my chip?
He snapped. I don't know where she is. My voice was strained.
Ronnie! Yes, sir!
One of the men stepped forward. His eyes grew dark as his lips curled into a lopsided grin.
Help Anton remember where the chip is, and by extension, my niece.
With that, Uncle Henry walked out of the room, and the 3 men walked towards me menacingly.
Anton! Anton!
Someone shook me and whispered in my ear.
Come on, Anton, wake up!
I opened my eyes as wide as I could. I felt a metallic taste of blood in my mouth. One of my eyes was almost swollen shut. I had cuts and bruises all over my body. How? I said weakly as she untied my hands and legs.
My uncle used this place a few years back for one of his experiments. It was just a good guess.
How did you get here?
I saw your car stranded on the gas station and I used it. Now enough questions, let's go.
Samara helped me up and tried to support my weight against her body, but I tumbled to the ground in pain. Just as Samara bent down to help me, I grabbed the ropes and pushed her onto the chair. Before she knew what had happened, I had her bound to the chair. She struggled against the ropes and looked at me in horror.
What are you doing?
What am I doing? I snarled angrily. You decided to plant a stolen chip in my wristband that you gave to me for my birthday. Then, you showed up on my doorstep and asked me to take you to your Aunt Tia's, and like the good boyfriend that I am, I was like, okay, sure. Look at my face, Samara. Look at it. I continued. And you dared to ask me what I'm doing? I never asked for this. I didn't deserve this. You should have told me the truth up front and let me decide if I wanted to get mixed up in this. Now it's too late for that. Tears ran down Samara's face, and I looked at her in disgust. Oh, please, save yourself the pity party. You caused this yourself.
I didn't take you to be a coward, Anton. I thought I could trust you, but I was wrong.
She spat. Trust? You want to talk about trust after you lured me out of my house under false pretense? I cleared my throat. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have to meet with your uncle. Samara screamed and pulled hard against the ropes.
You can't give him the chip. You can't.
I opened her purse and got my keys in the wristband. You think I can't hand this over to your uncle? I bet you $100,000 that I can. At least your uncle was honest with me. I can't say that about you, can I? As I turned and walked away, Samara called behind me.
If Uncle Henry gets that chip, nobody will be safe.
I laughed cynically as I turned and faced her. At this point, whatever your uncle does with the chip is his business. But I'm not going to go through everything that I did tonight and leave empty-handed. Oh, and by the way, your uncle told everyone you went away to visit your Aunt Tia in another country, so no one is coming for you.
No!
Samara screamed. Before I exited the room, I turned off the light and locked the door behind me. I arrived at Uncle Henry's house about an hour later. As promised, he handed me the cash. He also had his men clean the interior and exterior of my car to make sure that Samara's prints were not on it. They also erased my GPS just in case anybody thought to look at it. I kept the money hidden from my parents, and as soon as I left school, Uncle Henry asked if I wanted a job at his lab, which I accepted. In my short time on this earth, I've learned two things. The first is just because you love someone, that does not give you the right to put them in difficult situations and demand that they help you. The second one is to keep your friends close and your enemies closer.